Hey there, everybody. The topic at hand today, let's talk about noses. When we're looking at face reading in the Chinese medicine context, it's a universe, like everything in Chinese medicine, which is sort of frustrating and sometimes really cool, but it's a universe in and of itself. And so when we look at a single feature, it has many different layers, many different facets, but it's a microcosm of a macrocosm process. So the small reflects the large. Physicists are starting to figure out and starting to point to that they think the nature of the universe is holographic, which means a small portion represents the larger whole. We see this mechanism at play in a lot of different things, and it's been said in lots of traditions, right? As above, so below. What happens at the micro happens at the macro. That being said, let's specifically dive into the nose and what that means. So there's lots of different layers to the nose, what this means in the context of face reading. But the thing I always like to say, the thing that I like to preface these kinds of talks when I'm talking about face reading is that face reading isn't fortune telling. To the best of my abilities, I think why I try to explain these things the way I do is I want them to be taken seriously. And that has been something that hasn't gone so well. What I would call the New Age movement. A lot of these accessible, old, ancient traditions get blown off as just New Age bullshit. And that's really unfortunate. So me, as the American guy, I'm doing my best to make this stuff accessible because it does help, it's relevant, and it's interesting as all hell. At least to me, maybe not to everybody, but for me, it's very interesting, and it's helped me. So, talking about the nose. The first thing is this. When we're looking at the nose is seen as the external marker of sorts for the lungs. Now, obviously, when we inhale, and we inhale through the nose, goes directly into our lungs. Now, our mouths do this also, but the nose is actually more important because we get a better immune response because there's a filtering process, basically, that goes through the nose. There's when you look at the inner structure of the nose and all of the small hairs that we have, those things are seen as like a filtering system to pick up pathogens before they actually get into the lung. So, in any case, breathing through the nose, and the nose itself is reflective of lung function. Now, in Chinese medicine, lung function doesn't just pertain to how well we breathe, it also pertains to some emotional proclivities. Now, healthy lungs, when we breathe deep and we have strong, healthy lung function, this also means that we posture well. Now, this doesn't mean being the douchey bro at the bar and you're like, "What's up, bro?" And you're posturing and being an idiot. Not like that, but the posturing of how we claim space physically. It's said that 70 to 80% of communication is nonverbal. It's how we carry ourselves, how we keep our chest up, how well we look someone in the eye when we're talking to them. There's all these cues, and lung function is seen as a piece of that. So if we posture well and can claim space well, not in a domination way or in a way that makes people feel uncomfortable, but we contain ourselves well and we command a certain presence, that's seen as healthy lung function. Also, sexual prowess. Now, this doesn't mean in the sense of someone going down and just, tackling a person to have sex. That's not what that means. It's not a prey and predator dynamic. But what it means is people that feel good and healthy in their sexual expression. They feel that they're not inhibited, say in the bedroom, or they are able to approach a potential partner with confidence. And maybe they have some nerves, but that ability to interface with sexual energy well is also lung function, seen as lung function, how well we breathe. So when we look at the nose, one of the key things is this. This was brought up to me when I was studying with my teacher, Lillian Bridges. And one of the things that I guess one of the points where I bought in even more was having her read my nose in class in front of a lot of people, which is a gamble because she could be wrong in theory, but she wasn't. She looked at my nose, and one of the things was nostril size. So thank you, Dad, for the giant Estrada nostrils, which are very prominent, and I've been made fun of for a long time. But the larger the nostrils, what this pointed to at the physiological level was typically people that gravitated towards colder climates. So one of the first things Lillian said in class when she saw my nose, she said, "Gray, you like the cold weather, I take it." And I said, "Yes, I love cold. I so prefer cold over hot. Hot, I get very lazy and lethargic. Doesn't make me feel good. I feel kind of crummy and I'm typically irritable." And she said, well, typically, she says, people with the larger nostrils, this was a sign of people that were acclimated to colder climates. And So when she said that, I thought that's really interesting. Here's this physical marker that points to a proclivity that there's no reason for her to know that about me. I lived in Sacramento at the time. I still do when she read me. So I was living in a climate that's not particularly cold. It has a, reasonably cold winter, and I hate the summers here, which is very true. And she said, yeah. She said, so typically what we see is larger nostril people typically, classically and physiologically gravitate more towards cooler climates, which is really relevant to notice because there's an idea in feng shui, and they say geography plus biology equals destiny. And what that means is your geographical terrain in relation to your specific biology, your natural genetic proclivities equals destiny, like how well you're going to walk through life. So taking into account your geography and your natural biology will point you to a healthier life path in short. So if you have large nostrils, it's something to consider. This isn't always the case, of course, but what they noticed over thousands of years, people with larger nostrils, this is what it pointed to. Cooler climates were better for them. The other thing is a heightened sense of smell. So for those of you who know, I love to cook. I talk about it all the time. You guys should check out the ribeye post I just put up the other day, cooking for my buddy Corey. I love food. I love cooking. And yes, my nose is highly sensitive. This has not served me well with having a baby. I have to breathe. I'm a mouth breather when I change diapers because the smell is so overpowering. And I can smell cologne from usually 30 feet away in a grocery store. It's a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways. But these markers, again, studying the face reading material and then seeing it real time in my body and saying, damn, that's really interesting. That's really on point. So these are just things to consider, okay, in terms of climate for one, and two, sense of smell. Now, this doesn't mean that people have small nostrils have a horrible sense of smell. That's not what it means. But if you think about it in the most intuitive, basic sense, larger nostrils, it's a larger hole, which means more things are going to come in at a faster rate. This isn't new age woo-woo drivel theory. Think about it physiologically. Something with larger nostrils is probably going to have a better sense of smell and is going to take in more air to essentially warm the body than smaller nostrils. If you're in a cool climate, the thinking is that with larger nostrils, you're going to be breathing more and taking in more air to warm the body up. Typically what my teacher had said and what she had seen and what she had read, in the theory and in the practice was that people with smaller nostrils were typically acclimated to tropical climates, warmer climates in general. So there's other things that the size of the nostril means. There's other things it means in relation to money, the bridge of the nose. But these are a couple key points to consider and to think about. Look at people with flared nostrils. Inquire if they have a good sense of smell. Look into yourself. If you have flared nostrils, is scent a piece of your strength in terms of living? And then the climate. That's always a piece to look at, because if we can understand the climates that actually support our health and that make us feel better emotionally or physically, that's something to note. Not always easy to implement, right? We have jobs, we have things. We can't move to Iceland just because we have large nostrils. But again, ideas to consider and things to look at when you're looking at the larger context of life, your face, and what it means. So I hope this finds you guys well. And if anyone would like to work with me in terms of face reading, these are the kind of things that we will touch on and that can point you to some lifestyle choices that are sometimes better, because sometimes we just don't know what we're sitting on until someone points it out. So again, hope you guys enjoyed this. I will talk to you soon.